Here we are. We are live here on Facebook. This is a bit of a new experience for us. This is something we're trying out. I have no idea how this is going to go. I'm not overly familiar with Facebook, uh, with everything that's going on. Hello, welcome to our official Facebook Live educational event. Um, Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for coming. I imagine over the next little bit we're going to have a lot of people joining. So we're going to start this off kind of slow. We're going to make sure that we aren't moving too fast with our information. Anybody who misses this part, I'm sure we'll be able to repost a good portion of this video afterwards. I'd like to begin by talking about the inspection industry and about COVID and how we're dealing with it. It's a difficult time. It's a difficult time for everybody. I don't pretend to have any or all of the answers. We're going forward based on the concept of do the next right thing. I think we learned that from Frozen 2, and we're just trying to do exactly that, the next right thing. So when it comes to COVID, what you're seeing us do is we are still taking inspections. We are still open for business. What we're endeavoring to do as best as we can is to be as safe as humanly possible. I did have a long conversation yesterday with the Ontario Business Helpline, and basically I pled our case that we are still an essential service, and they agreed. So from that perspective, yes, we're here. We're an essential service. We're here to help you. Because of that, we're taking a lot of precautions. We're taking all the precautions as prescribed by the World Health Organization. We're taking all the precautions prescribed by our premier. So if you are going to wind up booking a home inspection with us as this pandemic continues, and God help us, I know we can make it all through this. But if you are going to book a home inspection with us during this time period, our suggestions are this going forward. First of all, stay home. Stay home. That's been the resounding message from everybody is stay home. We don't necessarily have the luxury of staying home. It is our job to go out and make sure you're educated about these properties. And essentially, at the end of the day, that's our job, to make sure you, as the home buyer, understand your home. That's what we do here at Rock Solid Home Inspection. Myself and my team, this is what our goal is. Making sure you understand what you're getting yourself into, making sure you understand your investment. So we don't want to leave you hanging. We don't want to leave anybody purchasing a home without the proper information. Because of that, we are still running. Now, we're requesting, like I said, if you're buying, stay home. We will make it easy for you to get that information. So what a lot of my clients are doing is a lot of my clients are staying home, exactly that. I will go to the home. I will take all the precautions, and I will also take all the risk. I know my wife doesn't necessarily like hearing that, but here's the thing. We're taking a lot of precautions in regards to that risk. I'm wearing gloves. I'm wearing masks. We're sanitizing. We're wiping down afterwards. None of my clothes are making it into my home. We're being as sanitary and sterile as possible. I've got a family to worry about too, folks. I don't want this. I don't want this virus in my house. Uh, that's a big concern for me. I mean, it's always family over everything. And at this point, I'm taking every precaution I can. So on the go forward, if you can stay home, it's the advice of us to stay home. A lot of realtors out there are asking me, what are you doing? And I like to relay the message that a lot of realtors are contacting their brokers and finding out that no, under these circumstances, as much as you have a legal obligation to be there, a lot of brokers are outright saying, give the inspector the lockbox code and go. As long as everyone's okay with it, we're minimizing the amount of people present, great. A lot of agents are still coming, making sure that the property is safe, doing their legal responsibility, which I admire. But maybe they're staying in their car. Again, great idea. When I'm in your home as a seller, if any sellers are going to wind up watching this, I am not taking any liberties in your home. Understand that. I've got wipes with me. I'm wearing gloves. I'm wearing masks. I'm making sure that you are as safe as I possibly can make you. I know it's a huge inconvenience. I always tend to apologize to people regardless because it's a burdenous situation, having me come into your home and invade your space. In this circumstance, I'm being extra cautious. Know that I'm going to treat your family as I would my own, and I'm not going to put anybody at risk, especially not any undue risk. I'm going to make sure I leave your home as close to I found it, both in its current state and in sanitary state as I possibly can make it. So that's kind of the initial message I want to make sure we got out there is this is our response to COVID. We are also trying to book down to one inspection a day. What we're generally doing is putting one inspection out there, and then as long as we have time to re-attend our houses, decontaminate, and then re-engage into another residence, again, sterile as we can make it, we're also doing that if need be. There has been a much greater demand than I was expecting out of all this, which surprises me some, but such is life. I mean, John Lennon famously said, "Life is what happens while you're busy making plans." Our plans have changed because of the demand, and we're just trying to navigate through this the best as we can, just like everyone else. At this point, I've been prattling on for about 5 minutes. What I want to do is I'm going to just do something quick on the computer, make sure that we don't have any questions on the board. This is a great time to ask questions. A big part of what we're doing here today is giving you the education that we have to present to you today. Some of it's serious stuff, some of it's a little bit less serious. Either way, it's going to be beneficial to you. But questions are great. I always preach the concept that during a home inspection, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Well, guess what? This is akin to a home inspection. There's no such thing as a dumb question to ask. If you've ever wanted to know that small detail about your home or about homes in general or repairs or maintenance or upkeep, now's a great time. Now's a great time. Ask that question, and I'll do my best to answer. If the feed gets too busy and I miss you, I apologize. Anybody who is looking for something along the lines of a referral from me today, hey Pat, I need a new roof, or hey Pat, I need a plumber. What I'm going to say to you is get a hold of me on the side. Send me maybe a private message. Send the company or myself a private message. If you have my number, shoot me a text message. And yes, I do need some vintage tools, my friend. What I'll do is I'll get in touch with you that way for all my contacts. I don't want to overload anybody by putting them up too publicly on here. I have a lot of great trusted contractors, and I will get them to you. But let's try to do that in a bit of a professional fashion if we can. Okay, you're going to see me approach the screen for a second. I'm just moving the mouse out of the way to make sure I can actually see what you folks are saying. Great. Okay, so this is a really good starting point. A lot of people are going to ask me, Pat, what do you most often see wrong with a house? It's quite honestly simple. Yes, a little publicity plug there. This is actually a mug made by Nana. It's a company out of Waterford who does a lot of screen printing and vinyl printing. They've done quite a bit of work for us. Not necessarily the embroidered shirts we're wearing today. Those are actually done by Brenda's Spinning Spools out of Hamilton. By far the best embroidery company you're ever going to deal with. Shameless plugs, number 1 and 2. Thank you, folks. So a lot of people are going to ask me, Pat, what types of issues do you commonly see? Perfect. That's exactly the question I'm about to ask. That's my brother right there asking the question. What do you often see in a house? Now he's saying craziest. We'll get back to that. What are some of the most common things you see? Well, any of the agents who are gonna be watching right now are gonna say there's a lot of things that wind up being the common theme. I'd say one of the most common things I routinely find in a house, regardless of its age, new, old, anywhere in between, renovation style, honestly, is loose toilets. Now, as much as that sounds silly, you've probably seen maybe a couple of videos of me talking about toilets. We have a YouTube channel up now, by the way, folks, so feel free to subscribe, and as the videos come up, you'll get the education just like this with our particular brand of humor involved. People are always talking about loose toilets. I'm always talking about loose toilets. Here's the thing about a loose toilet. It's just a toilet that's loose against the ground. It's not that big of a deal. You're right. You're right in your own perspective. But here's the thing. If that toilet gets loose enough, that leak begins. That leak begins. Now we're talking about mold. We're talking about drywall repairs. We're talking about water damage to subfloors. We're talking about rotting to subfloors. When we're talking about a loose toilet, it's not just as easy as popping off the caps and screwing down those floor bolts. This is one of the big things we always want to talk about right here, folks. This here is our wax ring. Now, our wax ring is a pretty simple device. What basically it is there's a flange on the bottom of the toilet. This flange is going to look kind of like a bundt cake for all the millennials out there. Please don't start a new challenge based on the fact that I'm showing you what a wax ring is. This goes on the bottom flange of the toilet. The bottom flange of the toilet is actually going to look very similar to this casing you're going to see there. It sits in. It's incredibly tacky. It's incredibly sticky. And here is going to be your floor bolts. The whole idea is you're going to drain the toilet, you're going to unscrew, you're going to scrape off the wax ring that's there, drain the toilet obviously, because otherwise you will get some water spillage. But when you go to put this back on, you're going to replace the ring. It's a really simple process to do. I've considered doing a video in regards to it, but I don't have any toilets to change. Crap, I just gave my wife an idea, didn't I? Damn it. Well, that's going to be job number 476. So the whole idea is YouTube videos are out there to show you how to do this. It's not that difficult. It's quite easy to do. But when you have a loose toilet, we want to ensure that that wax ring has its integrity. Without that integrity of the wax ring, that's providing the waterproof seal. You can get into the idea that that can now start to leak. If that starts to leak, I don't know what the damage is going to be to your house. Because if it's a second floor washroom and this is leaking, that water can go everywhere. If it's a first floor, it can go to the basement. You can still get rotting to the subfloors. We can get into mold issues. It's a small issue. These rings cost about $12. And what I always like to tell people is, I know it's $12 and about a half hour of your time, but it's going to cost you a tremendous amount more if you don't get ahead of this issue. These are some of the things we're going to talk about today. Now, getting back to what my brother here asked, he's saying, what are some of the craziest things you're going to see during a home inspection? I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. One of the things I try to tell people is go to our Facebook page, go to our YouTube channel. You'll see a lot of those really crazy pictures. I recently put up a post about, I think it was Freaked Out Friday, where I put some of the more interesting pictures and things that we've found during home inspections. I know I inspected a house, I want to say 2016 or 2017. A friend of mine was buying a house off another friend of mine, and the friend of mine who owned the house had decided that it would be a really great idea to leave little zombie baby dolls around the house to scare the ever-loving hell out of me, and that it did. Especially the one in the closet when I went to go look for the attic hatch. That was a little bit troubling to find. I have gone into attics and seen the lights glaring back at me of the eyes of the raccoons. That is never a good thing. Actually, I've got a picture to post that I haven't posted yet, but we did a house just on the other side of Brantford the other day, and lo and behold, had a nice snake waiting for us, hanging around some of the plumbing lines. I think I sent a picture out to my father-in-law, who might have wet himself just a little bit when I showed him that picture. He's not a really big fan of snakes. Some really cool stuff out there. When you want to talk about our craziest stuff, my suggestion is follow our Facebook feed, because this is some of the stuff we love putting up on marketing. Some of the stuff I love getting out there is seeing some of the extreme cases. So let's continue to talk about some of the most common things that we're going to find. Another big plumbing issue. We're going to stick with plumbing for right now. Another big plumbing issue we find. I got a little demonstration piece for you. Is right here. So this piece right here that you're holding, I guess the contrast against my shirts and all that, great. This is what we call our trap. You're going to find this underneath sinks, underneath just about everything water-based. The water is coming in from here. This is the top, this is the drain pipe, the tailpipe that drops down. It drops down and lands right in here into something called a trap, okay? Why do we call this a trap? Well, because its actual intent, its actual purpose is to trap water. We want to, in this U-joint right here, we want to actually have a layer of water covering up this joint. Why, you might ask? Well, it's actually causing a seal to occur. If that seal is there, sewer gases cannot make their way back up the line and into your house. The whole idea is this is actually creating a seal against those sewer gases. Now, we call this specifically a P-trap. Why do we call it a P-trap? That's right. When we hold it up in that direction, kind of looks like a P, doesn't it? Okay? The whole concept is, as the water comes down, it raises back up, it treads along this line. Some of that water is going to sag back down and trap itself into this U-joint. Here's the issue we come across a lot, and this is where we get into people who don't necessarily have a full understanding of plumbing, doing plumbing. I'm just going to take this apart. Yes, it's not glued for anybody who's into plumbing. No, this is just a demonstration setup. A lot of times we get people who don't know what they're doing, and they're going to get into doing something like this. What have they created here? What do we call this? Well, it's still a trap, but this is now what we call an S-trap. An S-trap, as you're going to see, there's our S, okay? Our S-trap has the same exact effect. Water's dropping down, it's hitting into the U-joint, but this up and down action, this immediate rise and drop creates a siphon effect. That siphon effect is taking water out of the U-joint, not leaving enough to create that pure seal. Okay? Here's the issue with that. If you give the sewer gases the ability to come back up, they're gonna. You're gonna get that smell. You're gonna get that sulfur. God forbid, sewer gases can even be toxic and possibly flammable depending on what type you're getting back up, depending on whether you're living in country or city, of course. The whole concept is we want that 3 to 4 inch gap up here at the top to be able to create that lag back. If we don't have that lag back, you get into that siphon effect. And that siphon effect can have some really ill effects on you, your plumbing, your house, and God help me, your sense of smell. Because when you've smelt it, you know it's there. That's our S traps versus our P traps. That's some really good stuff to talk about right away. Folks, don't be afraid to post up a question. I know I'm talking a lot. Anybody who knows me knows I talk a lot. But if you have a question to post up there, by all means, I will answer it. Now, let's get back into more common things I find. I've got a lot of demonstration items here next to me to be able to kind of get us through the period where not a lot of people are asking questions, which I'm perfectly cool with. What else do we find a lot of? Well, again, let's get into the idea that oftentimes homeowners are doing things with great intentions, but perhaps a lack of knowledge. This right here. What do we call this? This is our duct tape. Simple, normal, everybody has seen it before, standard duct tape. Now, here's the question. Does duct tape belong on duct work? Seems like an asinine question, but the reality is it doesn't. This tape has the ability to get very brittle when exposed to cold temperatures and hot temperatures, which is going to be on your HVAC system. So your ductwork, as it goes through its heating and cooling cycles, is actually causing this tape to become very brittle. It's causing it to break away. This is going to cause you to lose a lot of your efficiencies. If this is around any sort of sealing points, you're going to lose a lot of money and pressure and comfort of your home. This is going to negatively affect your efficiency. This can also become brittle enough if there was enough heat, which is unlikely. It could potentially become a fire hazard. We're talking a very small percentage. But regardless, we're into an issue here. This is something simple. Somebody put the wrong tape. What type of tape belongs there, Pat? This stuff right here. This is a reflective mastic foil tape. I'm going to come right in so you can see it. You're going to see the reflective nature of this tape. It's got a tape backing on it, which keeps the sticky side at bay. This stuff here is heat resistant. It's cool resistant. This is what belongs on your ductwork. This is what belongs on your dryer vents, on your furnace, on your plenums, on your branches, anywhere where you're finding that leak. This is the stuff you want. It's quite expensive. It's a pain to work with if you've never dealt with this stuff before. But the reality is, this is the stuff you're looking for. This is what we're going to recommend to you. So these are some kind of little issues that we're going to run across. But I feel like it's important to get some of these out there because a lot of times we're dealing with first-time home buyers. A lot of times first-time home buyers, there's not knowledge base. This is helping you better understand when you're even looking through the homes yourselves. Agents, if you're looking through, these are things to look out for. I know a lot of you are very knowledgeable. A lot of you know your stuff. You don't need me to tell you these things, but it's always good to get the reminder. Now, what if we were to get into some more serious stuff? People are always going to ask, what do you commonly find? Well, these are some low-end common things. But what do you find a lot of? Well, we do a lot of home inspections in Hamilton, in Brantford, in Ancaster, Dermody. These are all areas that are a little bit older in their infrastructure. There's a lot of areas of Hamilton, Brantford, especially that are quite significantly older. Quite often, one of the big things we find is this. So I'm going to bring this nice and close to the camera so you can see this really well. It's in a bag for my protection. But you're going to notice this is a very fibrous material, okay? It's a white material. It's got a very fibery base to it, okay? These are two pieces of it, sort of stuck together, if that's a really good image of it for you. What is this stuff? Anybody want to take a guess? I know all my agents know because we've talked about this stuff enough. This is our asbestos. Now, you're going to say to me, holy smokes, Pat, everybody tells me this will kill me and everybody I love. Well, if that was the case, I wouldn't keep it in my garage, especially with the amount of time I like to spend in my garage, as you can see by the tools. Asbestos is an issue. Asbestos is a problem. Asbestos can be cancer-causing. It's a carcinogen. It's quite problematic. Why are we actually afraid of asbestos? Well, asbestos is a mineral. It's mined from the earth. It was used at the turn of the century. They found out it was fire resistant, in fact, fireproof. Because of that, they started to mass produce it into a variety of applications around residential, commercial, and industrial structures. It's actually still quite widely used, more so than most people would like to think about. In about the 1980s, around 1985 is when it was officially kind of banned out of residential use in Ontario. So any of the stuff that we're going to see, we're going to know is sitting at around that 30 to 40-year-old mark, generally a little bit older. So our concept is this stuff is meant for fire resistance, but now we know it to be a carcinogen. Why is it a carcinogen? Well, at the most microscopic level, an asbestos fiber looks kind of like a fishing barb. You breathe it in, it sinks down to the bottom of your lungs, it spears into the pleural lining. That can trigger lung cancer development or mesothelioma, all part of a collective condition known as asbestosis. Now, one of the facts I like to share with people is that 95% of people diagnosed with asbestosis are involved in one of the 5 following fields of employment: the mining, milling, manufacturing, application, or removal of, say it with me, everybody, because I know you know the answer, asbestos. Here's the thing. Most people who are diagnosed with this asbestosis are directly involved. Day-to-day contact, working with this material, which needs to be respected. That's really one of the terms I like to push on people. This needs to be respected. The remaining 5% of that 95% is almost entirely made up of three professions. Shipbuilders. Ships are very widely used with asbestos because of their steam powering, because of close quarters to very, very hot piping. Also, the last thing you want to be in the middle of the ocean is on fire. Secondly, home renovators, guys like myself, guys like some of the contractors I'm going to refer out to you, will take one of these hammers on the wall, put it into a wall, and breathe in whatever's there. And guess what? A lot of times it's asbestos containing, because as much as we're good at what we do, we're not all that brave when it comes to our PPSC. So that's a very susceptible group. Finally, one of the last ones, auto workers. Why auto workers? You're going to ask yourself that. Well, all of your cars contain asbestos. Take that in for a moment. We're talking firewalls, gaskets, brake pads, muffler baffles, all have the high potential to contain asbestos in them. Asbestos is still widely used today. One of the big statistics I like to put out there is the idea that, for the most part, in almost every study relating to asbestosis, the average homeowner doesn't show up as a visible statistic. Most people who get asbestosis don't get it because they happen to live in a home with asbestos. They get it because they have direct day-to-day contact. That's where we get into that issue. Now, what are you going to do about this stuff? There's a lot of different issues. If we come across it in your home, we can go over some of those options with you. I can put you in touch with some good people to help take care of it. What I really like to say about this stuff, and this is the message I really like to deliver, this stuff needs to be respected, not feared. My problem with all those people will and change our life fixture. That's fine. Otherwise, or burn down your house. Now, here's asbestos is more of a cumulative exposure. So the issue coming into play, excuse me, I've got somebody popping up here. As for that, the issue comes into play is that it's a cumulative exposure. It has to be a number over time. Because of that, again, we're not so much fearing this stuff, we're respecting it. If you respect it, it's not going to hurt you as well. Don't buy into so much of the fear that you're being fed. Understand it. That is more important. One of our big mottos for the company is we like to take whatever fear and anxiety you have and replace it with information and education. That's what we're here to do today. Now, let's stay on the asbestos train for a second, and let's talk about this stuff. Got a nice baggie over here. We'll bring it nice and close to the camera. That's right. It's a rocky, fibrous-like insulation in your attic. Anyone want to take a guess? Anybody? I heard it. That's right. Vermiculite. So a lot of times vermiculite is one of our big scary things that we're going to find as well. Now, here's one of the things about vermiculite. It is asbestos containing. Okay, even the worst vermiculite that we saw, which was generally the zonolite vermiculite, widely used in Ontario, was 50% asbestos. That means that the material itself is 50% made up of asbestos. The asbestos I held up to you is asbestos wrap. It's all asbestos. This stuff here is 50%. It's asbestos containing, and it's in your attic. Does it have the potential to come down? Can those fibers break free? Can they come through? Sure, they can, yes. Is it the end of the world problem? No, there's a lot of ways to deal with this. Again, I like to bring this back to the idea of respect it. If you are respecting the material, you're understanding the risk, you're proceeding educated, you're going to make the right decisions. Always, when we're talking about this stuff, I always like to say, get yourself a contractor who knows what they're doing. That can mean a lot of different things. And if you have questions about that, talk to us privately, and we'll get you in touch with the right people who are not going to take advantage of you. That's a huge part of what we're about as well here at Rock Solid Home Inspections, is making sure you're not being taken advantage of. I don't see a lot of questions on the board, so we're just going to kind of keep going with things. I'm enjoying myself. I don't know if everybody else is. I hope you're learning as we go, because we do have a lot of information to share with you. I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you over here, and we're going to look at something kind of cool. So we talk about some of the other big scary things we're going to find in homes, and we're going to talk about electrical, because electrical tends to be one of the larger issues you're going to come across. There's a lot of issues that can come into play with electrical. Electrical can be extremely dangerous. Because of that, we want to make sure that whatever we're doing it safely. We want to make sure you're living safely. A lot of different types of electrical can be problems. Here's one that is really interesting for us. So you're going to have a little look at this. Okay, I'm going to bring this a little bit closer so you can see a little bit better. Okay, we're getting a good look at that. This, folks, is our knob and tube. Why do we call it knob and tube? Well, here's your knobs. Careful, guys. Here's our knobs. Here's our knobs, and here's our tubes. The idea is this wiring is very, very brittle. The insulation on it is incredibly brittle. What we always saw with this wiring is they're going to be in two separate runs, whereas the wiring you're used to seeing is going to be side by side, right next to each other, usually in the same sheathing wrap, okay? What we're going to get into with this stuff is there's no main sheathing wrap. This was one of the unique kind of characteristics of the time. So they were always run a spacing apart to prevent any shorting. What would happen is, because it was so brittle, because it was delicate, as it would run through the wood, it would run through this tube, which would protect it. Then it would be housed and secured at the knob point. The knob point would hold in the wire, and then it would continue to go. Okay? This is why we call it our knob and tube. This is what it is. Why is it a problem, Pat? Well, it's old, it's ungrounded, but here, let's have a look at this. This is our wire. Let's just give that wire a little bend. And there's our split right there and then. That's how easy it is to cause the damage to this wire. Once that wire is damaged, once that interior wire is actually exposed, that can lead to our short, that can lead to some arcing if there's metal components around, that can lead to our fire. This is why the insurance company hates this stuff. This is why the insurance company's got such a big problem with this stuff. It's old, it's antiquated, really problematic. This is a display that gets a lot of attention because most people, they hear about knob and tube, they understand that it's bad wiring, but they don't actually understand what it looks like. Well, here you are looking at it today, which is kind of cool. The idea of knob and tube is it's going to have to get remedied. It has to at this point. Very few insurance companies are going to insure you with knob and tube. There's a lot of practices in play to remedy this stuff. Where we see it, I'm going to put you in touch with one of our certified electricians, somebody who's going to come in, make sure the house is proper, make sure the house is ESA certified, and make sure that you can feel comfortable, and make sure your insurance company is not going to have any further questions for you. Because this is one of the larger issues we do have, solvable. That takes me back to a really important point. Every issue you're going to come across, solvable. Every issue has a solution. The issue becomes, are you ready for that solution? Are you ready to take on that scope of work? That's my job and my team's job, to explain to you that scope of work, to help you understand it. We're not necessarily going to sit here and give you a price, because I'm not the electrician doing the job. But what we are going to do is, the electrician is going to do, put you in touch with somebody who can help you and give you a relatively reasonable quote, hopefully quickly before your closing comes into play, and you'll understand what you're getting yourself into. That's the crux of what we do here at Rock Solid Home Inspections, helping you understand your transaction. Okay? So this is our knob and tube. Understand the knob and tube is ungrounded. Now, you're going to ask yourself, what is ungrounded wiring? Well, that's a really good question. We're actually going to get into that next. So ungrounded wiring is indicative of older wiring. That's wiring without actual ground connection. Now, what set up something, Rick, problem. So what I've got set up here is a nice station here. So what we've essentially done is this is our receptacle tester. So we use this to test your receptacles. We're testing for its correct polarity. We're testing to make sure it's properly grounded and wired correctly. This gives you a combination of readouts depending on what type of shape you're in. Now what I've done is I've actually labeled each of these with each of the readouts that you're going to get off of this device to give you a better understanding of what you're getting yourself into. Give me one moment to set this up if you would. Okay. So we're now dealing with a little bit of live wiring here, so you're going to see me be awful careful with this. On the circuit where it says everything is correct, that's this guy right here, you're going to see me plug this in. When we plug it in, you're going to see this and this light up. When these two light up, this is our correct circuit. Pull that out. We're going to take that, we're going to turn it around, and you're going to see here on that correct circuit, black's running here, white's running here, ground's running here. Everything's perfect. Everything's great. Now, we talked about our ungrounding with our knob and tube. This is where things get important because this is one of the more common things we find. So that's our open ground, our ungrounded wiring. No ground is being detected. Here's our detector. We're going to put that in. And look at what we're getting there. One light. Only the center light is showing up. This is important. This means we're missing a ground. Let me show you exactly what that means in a wiring context. I'm going to turn that back around. I'm going to show you. Look, there's your ground wire curled up right here. Okay? You got your positive coming in, you got your neutral coming out, but here's your ground over here. What is your ground protection? Your ground protection is essentially this guy right here, this singular prong. These two here are your power going in, your power going out. So, for example, your phone charger is still going to work on an ungrounded receptacle. It's not that big of a deal. But if you are plugging in something with all three prongs into an ungrounded receptacle, that receptacle has the false sense of security saying it has a ground. Consider a ground the levee for the river. If the river overflows, the levee is supposed to catch that excess. So hypothetically speaking, you have your vacuum plugged in, it has three prongs. If there's a surge, that extra surge is going to go through the vacuum and not be dumped out into this ground connection. On modern devices, that means you're probably going to blow the device. You're probably going to blow a fuse, blow a motor, something like that. There is a small risk that in something like a hammer drill, for example, that you could actually charge the device, and there is a potential for electrocution on that. That's on less sophisticated devices, things like TVs, things like appliances. They're going to short out because they have fusing within them. This is the risk you run with ungrounded wiring. Now, there's a lot of ways to deal with that. We can run the wire. We can run GFCIs and understand that not all ungrounded wiring is knob and tube. There are generations of wiring after knob and tube before grounding became overly common that is present. That is not knob and tube. Understand, knob and tube stopped in about the 40s, and grounding became popular well after that. There's a couple generations after that that exist. So just because we have knob and tube, or just because we have ungrounding, does not mean we have knob and tube. But if we have knob and tube and we have ungrounded, those two are married. So let's continue on a little bit here. We're going to talk about our next big one here. Sorry, I'll move my hand down. Is our reverse polarity. What exactly does that mean? We're going to plug this in and get nothing, apparently. We're going to get this light and this light turn on. Well, that's showing us that our flow of electricity is actually running backwards. So if you look on the correct circuit here, look where the white's going and the black's going. And now this is our reverse polarity. Oh, look, it is literally just reversed. Okay, so what this means is that somebody who shouldn't be doing wiring has wired the switch up and they have wired it up incorrectly. And now we're into a situation where the flow of electricity is actually running in reverse. This can be very harmful to whatever device is being plugged into it. Depending on the device's sophistication, can short it out, can cause some power transfer issues. Not a really good thing. 9 out of 10 times, this is somebody hooked up the wires incorrectly. Every now and then, this can be a short somewhere where two wires are sort of crossing over, and it can be a more deep electrical fix, but 9 out of 10 times it's your receptacle in the wrong place. Let's move on to the next one. This is our open neutral. We're going to plug that in. And you're going to notice we only get power on. We're only going to get this one light on here. What that's essentially meaning to us as we flip this around is exactly that. The ground's in, the power's in, the neutral's out. The neutral's curled up right over here. This essentially is, normally this is our loose wire. It's a connection where the neutral has not been connected properly. It's come away. We're still powered, but we're not getting proper connection. Likely your receptacle is not going to be functioning properly, and this is going to be the cause. This is indicative of that loose connection. One of the big things about loose connections is that's one of your bigger fire hazards. Two wires that are getting close to each other can lead to arcing. Arcing is going to look similar to when you've perhaps jump-started a car a time or two. If you jump-start your car, what happens when you get that clip that like next to the battery node? It's going to spark on you. That sparking is exactly what would be going on behind the wall in your electrical box, in your junction box, or in your receptacle box. That is going to spark. It is going to smolder. It's going to generate heat and can cause the fire. This is actually fairly serious when we see it. The last one is very, very uncommon, but I like to show it anyways. This is our hot ground reverse. We put this in, it's going to look all kinds of crazy. You're going to get these two show up, the middle one off. What we're essentially getting, as we flip this around, is this is a dog's breakfast. Everything's wired wrong. Even those of you who don't really understand wiring are going to look at this and go, what the hell has he done? Well, essentially, this is usually indicative of our short. Something has shorted out. Something has caused the wiring to cross over. We're now powering the wrong wires. We're now getting neutral on the wrong wires. It's a dog's breakfast, usually indicative of a short. I don't think anybody who's taking the time to rig up wires is going to do it that improperly. But hey, you never know. This has been a lot of fun so far. If anybody has questions, now's a good time to bring them up. Let's see if there's any questions coming across the phone line. Oh, apparently I have a whole bunch coming across the phone line here. So Spencer says, how do you manage client expectations when they think an inspection has a warranty and further issues? Good, I like that. That's a really good question. The reality is an inspection is a snapshot of the day. So understand that when we're doing a home inspection, we can't see through time. We can't predict the future. We can't see behind walls, even though we're going to use a lot of great tools to look and see what's going on behind the walls. One of the big things I like to say is people got to understand we're taking a picture of the house that day. That doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. You are getting us in probably 2 months prior to your closing. A lot can happen in that 2 months. Understand that if it's an issue we could have seen coming, we're going to identify it to you. Otherwise, things can happen, folks. We don't know what people are going to do with the house. Managing the expectation is really important. We're going in today saying this is what we expect to see. Our report is that snapshot of that day. We're going to do our best to make sure that we're taking into account preventative measures, maintenance issues, upkeep, but understand our limitation is we can't control that the people who own the house are going to come back home, and if they trash the house, we have no ability to do anything about that. One of the nice things about the inspection report is how we find everything that day, and how I report to you is how we should see it going when you take possession of the home. So you do have, of course, talk to your lawyer, talk to your realtor about this kind of thing. The expectation is that if your AC dies on you, we couldn't see that coming, folks. We're going to tell you if it's older, we're going to tell you if it's in rough shape, but if it looks good and a piece just dies on it, that is above and beyond what we're capable of doing. What we're here to do is give you that crash course in home ownership to teach you everything we can as fast as we can and as thoroughly as we can. But the idea is we can't predict the unpredictable. Please understand that as we go forward. We're good at what we do, but there are limitations. We've got some more questions. Just give me 1 second here. I've got our administrator, Michelle. She's the one who's taking care of the question and answer and just sending them to me. What examples of issues, Chris said, what are some examples of issues that homeowners can wait to fix given the trades are not available right now? Everything's a risk-reward scenario at this point. Let's talk about a roof. For example, I have a shingle that's blown off my roof right now. I'm not really a big fan of roofing or getting up onto a high slope roof, which mine is. I'll get up onto your low slope roofs and walk around and do my thing. I like to defer all my roofing to my roofing guys. People can say what they want about that, but that's my own personal choice. I'm going to wait on that roofing repair until the builder of the property is going to come back and provide that maintenance for me, because they're going to do that for free. Here's the thing. If I get the leak in the meantime, that's my own fault for waiting. I could get that taken care of early. I could wait. Everything is risk reward. Some examples of things people can wait on: anything you feel comfortable with. If your roof is getting really old and you feel like that roof could start leaking at any time and start generating a mold issue, it might not be the time to wait. You might want to find that roofer that's still working. Under the essential services instructions that have been handed down by the government, something like that is an emergency repair, and those are still being done. Okay? If you feel there's a way around whatever this repair is in these very unique times, take it. Take that way around. I know money's tight. I know the best people, some of the best people are not working. Some of the best people still are. But we want to make sure you're getting the best options at Bay 2. It's risk reward. Weigh it out together. If you have a real question about that, get in touch with me and we can talk about that kind of thing together. Especially if you have some pictures, we can talk about what could possibly be put off, or maybe if there's sort of a Band-Aid measure for the time being that can get you through. Good question. I really like that one. What do we have next? Ross says, how long did it take you to organize that pegboard? Listen, pal, some things are a labor of love, okay? And my tools are definitely my labor of love. I have no question about that at all. Let's see, what else do we have going on here? I think that's going to be about it for questions. Just going through my list. Hello there, Uncle Frank, as I see you there. Forza Roma, as we always say. This has been a lot of fun. If there's any last minute questions, by all means, slide them in. Otherwise, we've been going for about 40 minutes now. This has been a lot of fun. I hope if you've tuned in, you've learned a little bit of something. I understand we shot this on the fly. I didn't really have too much planned or scripted. As anyone who knows me knows, I just kind of talk and see where the whole thing goes. This has been fun. I hope you found it informative. Anybody who missed this or anybody who says, man, I really wish I could have seen it, we're going to do our best to see if we can't get this video put back onto our Facebook page and onto our YouTube page so that it's available. This content will be available for you. If you ever need us, our administrator is Michelle. She can be reached at 289-755-2411 or admin at rock-solidhomeinspections.ca. Myself, Patrick, 289-2163. Text me, call me if you want to, whatever you want to do. Patrick at rock-solidhomeinspections.ca. You can find us at www.rock-solidhomeinspections.ca. Our Facebook page is very easy to find, a lot of good content on there. We've just started the YouTube page. Go ahead and follow us on that as well. If there's any questions later on, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to help. Otherwise, everybody, please stay safe. Please respect the social distancing. Please take this time to spend time with your family. Learn a new skill. I unfortunately had to learn how to tune a guitar in the middle of this because I blew some guitar strings on a guitar I'm trying to learn to play. Thank you, Adam Cook, for the advice, by the way. You're the man. Well, a lot of these types of scenarios are an opportunity. I saw a great post from a realtor friend of mine named Julie, and she said the post was basically, listen, you can use this time and be lazy, or you can use this time and come out with a new skill, with a new mindset, with more knowledge. Let's use this time and become better people if we can, if that's at all possible. I think that's going to be all for questions. Nope, we got one more. Nope, just a hello, Patrick. Well, hello to you too. I dig that. All right, folks, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you very much for tuning in. Take a second to like us on Facebook. Take a second to subscribe on the YouTube page. And if you'd really like to, if we've ever been a part of your life, if we've ever helped you, whether it's a referral, an inspection service, whatever it happens to be, Google Rock Solid Home Inspections. We have a review section there. You will find we are probably the most reviewed home inspection company you're going to find anywhere. That is our biggest badge of honor. That is the biggest thing we love to be proud of. That's our biggest marketing tool. If you choose to leave that review, if you choose to leave those kind words and those 5 stars for us, you're doing us a massive service. You're giving us the best gift you can, and that is a boost to our reputation by using your name. If you choose to do that, we're forever in your debt. If anybody needs to find us, stay safe. Love your family. Enjoy the day. Seize the moment if you can. Go play outside with your kids. Come up with a fun game. Keep them educated as best as you can, or just binge watch something on YouTube for whatever keeps you happy. Take care, folks. Everybody have a great day. This has been a lot of fun.